Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to my corner of the world. We are here for a video that I said would be coming out this week. It is Bella versus Elena. Who was the worst vampire romance protagonist? It was uploaded by Rulerverse. Yeah, like last week when I did that tribute, I said that I had planned on recording a reaction to a video that would essentially explain, was Elena worth it when it came to the Stefan and Damon of it all. And I said in that video, I did not think she was worth it. Like, she was not that great, realistically. And seems like we're about to dive into that topic. So who is worse, Bella or Elena? That is a topic that has come up quite a bit in, vampire romance genre. But yeah, let's hop in. Link to the original video will be in the description if you want to check it out on your own. Let's run this up. I'm really curious
Bella Swan
as to what she comes up with.
Fell in love with immortal men who are literally decades older than them. They both have their faults, but if we were to directly compare the two, who is the worst vampire romance protagonist? That's what we're going to find out today.
Let's do it.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Rulerverse, where I tell otherworldly stories and give writing commentary. Today we're going to cover a topic that I've actually been wanting to cover for a long time, but I didn't think that it would be on brand for this channel. However, I've recently tried expanding my videos to other audiences, so
I feel that.
Here we are.
I do that too.
There are a lot of videos on Twilight and the Vampire Diaries, but there are very few who talk about them both together. This is always strange to me because I feel like the two series have a lot in common, especially when it comes to their protagonists.
Agreed.
Neither of them are well liked by their fan base, at all, and I can definitely understand why. One definitely deserves it, but the other, I'd say, needs at least some credit. She needs people to go a little bit easier on her.
So I'm just immediately, based off of what she's saying there, I'm going to assume for the one that she said deserves it, I'm immediately thinking that she's saying Bella is the one who deserves it, whereas Elena needs some more slack. And honestly, that's pretty valid, because Bella, but like Elena, like a lot of what happens in her story, like particularly towards the beginning of it, is not really her fault, and she's kind of like just reacting to what has been done. Like, sure, she definitely does some things that annoyed me, pissed me off, absolutely she has, but a lot of it really isn't her fault, and I do think that she does deserve some slack, but realistically, she is not worth all this trouble. that she puts, the trouble that she puts Stefan and Damon through, she is not worth all that. She's really not.
For those who don't know or are less familiar with Bella and Elena, they are the protagonists of Twilight and the Vampire Diaries respectively. And if you've been living under a rock, Twilight is an extremely famous movie series based on books by Stephanie Meyers, while The Vampire Diaries is another extremely popular TV show by the CW based on books by L.J. Smith. A lot of people say The Vampire Diaries copied Twilight, but this actually isn't technically true, at least with the books. The Vampire Diaries actually came out before Twilight, with the release of its first book in 1991, and Twilight releasing in 2005,
The books were really only... Are you serious? The books were only 3 years older than the first movie? That's crazy. I did not know that. I thought the Twilight books were a lot older than that. Wow.
A decade and a half later. But regardless of who copied who, there's no denying that these two series are extremely similar to each other. So with that background information out of the way, let's get to the meat of this video. Their protagonists. Bella Swan. We'll start with Isabella Swan. Bella is a 17-year-old human girl from Phoenix, Arizona who moves to Forks, Washington to live with her dad. It is stated in both the books and movies that she did so to have a more stable life, as her mother recently got married to a minor league baseball player and they travel around too much. There she gets a lot of attention from the locals due to being
I wish I could draw like that.
Friends. She also meets
and make it look so easy, but when you try it yourself,
like her very much.
it's so difficult.
Why. and in her quest to find out the truth, she learns he's a vampire. They fall deeply in love.
And you're a lefty too?
The relationship gets, they can't seem to stay away from each other. So what's the problem with Bella then? As a concept, her character is actually very interesting. The plot of the story alone is enough to explore a lot of different avenues of growth for her. What was her life with her mother like, and why did it make her feel like she had to escape to a totally different town? Perhaps the reason she's so insecure about herself despite her popularity has something to do with that. What new hobbies and interests has she taken up now that she's in Forks, and how did she and Edward connect over those similarities? When Bella finds out Edward is a vampire, how does that affect her perception of him? No matter how she feels about him afterward, whether she's afraid of him or not, doesn't really mean anything. This revelation should be world-shattering, causing her character to change greatly. It literally affects everything about how she perceives the world.
Yeah.
How she'll perceive death, how she'll perceive the concept of immortality, the fact that it's real.
Yeah, knowing that you have supernatural existence in the world, that would definitely change your perspective on a lot of things.
And all of them are equally interesting. But I'm sure if you've seen or at least heard of Twilight, you know where I'm going with this. Yeah, you guessed it. All the potential storytelling I discussed never happened.
Nope.
None of it.
No.
Instead, when Bella found out Edward was a vampire, it did not change her perception of him or the world at all. She did not even fear him. Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. Which is insane.
For lack of a better YouTube term. Even when she almost, leaves this world multiple times due to being associated with him, she does not change. Bella is the same person at the beginning of the story as she is at the end.
Yeah.
A teenage girl whose whole world is a boy, and no matter what he does, she is still in love with him and wants to be with him forever. I mean, I feel like he could literally go to an orphanage and end everybody's existence there, and she would still like him. Obviously, that is
I mean, to be fair, you could say the same thing about Elena and Damon, right? Yeah, you know, like, you gotta give it like a little bit of leeway there, but it's like at least with Elena, when she found out about the vampires existing in her world, she was scared. She was like full on terrified, as she should be. That is a natural reaction. These are vampires. These are beings who literally drink blood to stay alive, you know? Like, we are literally their food source. So it's like, you should be scared. Like, you should definitely be scared. But obviously, like, as things go on and you're gaining more experience with being in the supernatural world, and like you're getting to know these people, like, not necessarily for what they are, but for who they are, your perception of them can change and you can become less afraid, which is what happened with Elena. She experienced more time with them. She got to know them. She saw beyond what they were and got to the core of who they were. Bella didn't do that. It was literally just, I know what you are. Okay, I love you. Like, what? Like, that's insane. That is actually insane. Like, she started falling in love with this dude before she even knew who he was. It was literally just, I know what you are. I love you.
An exaggeration.
How did we get here?
As I was watching this and reading this, it sometimes did feel that way.
How did we get there? That's crazy.
I was just in love with him because the plot demands it.
Literally.
Sure, Bella becomes a vampire, she gets more confident, but that is the only change we see in her in the entire 4-book
literally
and 5-movie run of the franchise.
Literally.
If you know anything about basic writing, you'll know that that's a massive issue. It affects both her relatability as a protagonist and her ability to move the story forward. A protagonist is supposed to be the reason most things happen, or that things the antagonist does are stopped. But instead of her doing things that affects the plot, it feels like everything in a plot happens to Bella. You could replace her with any other female character and the story would remain the same. And that, right there, is the core problem with Bella's character. Her flaws don't even end there, though. I'm sure many fans would actually be able to forgive Bella's faults, myself included, if she were at least a decent person, but she kinda isn't.
No.
Like, at all.
No.
In both
like,
the books
no.
and movies, Bella
I don't know about her in the books. I can only go from the movies.
Cares about one thing, getting with Edward. From
Yeah.
the moment she meets him, she's obsessed. She treats her dad terribly for speaking out against Edward, even after he breaks her heart multiple times. She has no discernible personalities, hobbies, or goals outside of Edward. And when Edward straight up abandons her and Jacob picks up the pieces, she leads the boy on, constantly implying that if he's there for her, she'll give their relationship a shot.
Yeah, she emotionally manipulates Jacob so bad.
Honestly, but it's still, especially watching.
Like, Jacob deserves so much better.
Like
he really did. He was actually a good character.
Not cool, and it really makes you look worse than you probably are. Now, Jacob has his own flaws too.
Of course.
Many flaws.
Yeah.
But this video is not about him.
I mean, realistically, those flaws are really not his fault, though. It was literally the way that he was written. He was written specifically to have these flaws. He was written specifically to be the way that he was, which is actually messed up, because when he's like initially introduced, like, I think the best character portrayal that Jacob even has is in New Moon. Like, in like the first movie, you don't really get much about him, which is, you know, to be expected, because it was mainly all about the Cullens and like Bella's, like, you know, like learning about them and things like that. So it was mainly a Cullen focused movie. But the second one, New Moon, where it's all for the most part about the wolves, and we actually get to explore them. We get to explore Jacob. He's actually a good character. Like, his best portrayal throughout the entire series, in my opinion, is in New Moon. He was great in that movie. But then as you keep going on, like, in Eclipse, oh God. In Eclipse, he was pretty bad. Like, really, really bad. In Breaking Dawn Part 1, he had some good moments in that movie. He definitely had some good moments, but his flaws kind of still, like, held him back quite a bit, particularly, like, his anger issues. And then, like, Breaking Dawn Part 2, there's actually not, like, too much, like, Jacob development in Breaking Dawn Part 2, if you're gonna be honest. Because, again, it is more focused on the Cullens specifically, you know? It's more focused on them, and he's kind of just more or less there. But, like, yeah, New Moon Jacob, he was cool. Liked him, he was great. He was just an emotionally manipulated fool. But, yeah, great portrayal in New Moon.
Everyone around Bella who tries to support her, who is actually there for her, she ignores.
So, like, it's not really his fault.
School badly, only contacting them when she needs something. Like, I can count on one hand the amount of times that Bella actually hangs out with them just to hang out with them, and most of them are in the cafeteria, which you know, you're forced to hang out with people in the cafeteria at school, so I don't know how much that counts.
Not really. It doesn't really count at all.
She doesn't care about forming relationships around anyone else. She only cares about being with Edward. Understandably, this annoyed a lot of the fan base.
Yes.
Myself included.
Myself included as well. Yes.
Is pretty awful in a lot of ways, but there are a few things that are redeemable about her character. I like her straightforward nature, how she can
the
truth and accept a no or lies for an answer. I also enjoy how even when the odds are stacked up against her, if people or vampires are cornering her, that she tries to fight her way out. At the very least,
that is also a good quality. Yeah.
Damsel, but she's certainly not a good protagonist. But enough about Bella. Now that we've discussed her at length, let's talk about her counterpart. Why is she hated, and is she better or worse than Bella? Elena Gilbert. Just to let you all know, unlike with Twilight, I actually didn't fully read all of the Vampire Diaries books. In fact, I think I only got through like most of the first one and then quit.
I never read them either,
The
so
show deviated massively from the books, unlike Twilight, which remained pretty faithful throughout, just without some of its like soul and minor characterizations here and there. So for Elena's character study, we are going to be analyzing the show only. If we did show in books, that's two completely different characters, and that doesn't really make any sense. I think making this distinction in the comparison between these two characters is more than fair, as the show has way more content than Twilight anyway. Elena Gilbert is also a 17-year-old girl who lives in a small town, the fictional town of Mystic Falls, Virginia. She's been there her whole life, and up until recently her life has been relatively boring and normal. That is, until she and her parents were out one night, and they drove off a bridge. I'm not kidding, that's what happened. They drove off an actual bridge.
I mean, it's more complicated than that, but yeah.
As a result, Elena suffered from major depression and survivor's guilt. She broke up with her boyfriend, quit the cheerleading team she used to love so much, and is growing more and more distant from her best friends, Bonnie and Caroline, by the day. Her young aunt Jenna, who has custody of she and her brother now, tries to help but is completely in over her head in raising teenagers. All Elena can do is hope she can get through the day, wake up, and do it all over again. The only joy she seems to find in her existence is writing in her diary. She likes to write down her feelings and remind herself that things are going to get better. They have to, because otherwise, what's the point in living anymore? Enter Stefan. Many people call him Discount Edward Cullen, and I've been although I don't believe that, either of them is more handsome than the other. They're both very good actors.
That Discount Edward is crazy. I get it, though.
Like Edward and Bella.
But Stefan is a much more interesting character.
Stefan is the mysterious new kid at school who all the girls find hot, but he only seems to be interested in talking to one girl, Elena. Of course, because she's the main character. But when he talks to her, he only wants to get to know her and refuses to talk about himself. Even early on, it's clear to Elena that this man is hiding things and he's not all he seems. Unlike Bella, who eventually asks Edward straight up what he is, Elena does some research. She finds pictures of Stefan throughout history showing that he hasn't aged. Then when she's sure he can't be human, she confronts him, demanding to know the truth. And he tells her, even showing her his fangs and eyes, and she is terrified.
As she should be.
He easily catches up with her.
She should be reacting like that.
And she begs him to let her go. He reassures her that he'd never hurt her and lets her leave to process her feelings around this revelation. What I just described is the first couple episodes of the show.
Yeah.
A lot, and I mean a lot, happens throughout the Vampire Diaries. Love triangles, drama, tragedy, you name it.
Yeah.
It is every teenage girl's dream, honestly. I could not possibly summarize everything that happens in the show.
It's a lot.
One video.
It definitely is a lot.
A video like 3 hours long. So I'm going to give you the highlights, particularly the ones relating to Elena's character.
Fair enough.
I'm also going to hold the Vampire Diaries to a higher standard than Twilight, at least as far as character growth is concerned. After all, Twilight only had 5 movies, while the Vampire Diaries had 8 seasons. By all accounts, Elena should be a better developed character than Bella. So throughout its 8-season run, what did Elena learn? Well, at the beginning of the show, Elena was a depressed teenager trying not to give up on life. Honestly, relatable, who hasn't been there? I mean, not the parent tragedy part, but you guys know what I mean. She's straightforward, confrontational, and fiercely loyal to those that she loves. However, not all of her traits are good. Of course, she wouldn't be a character if they weren't. In season 1, she has trouble letting people in and has a tendency to try to sacrifice herself for her friends, even when they didn't ask for it. The first trait is fine, and it's something that she learns about and she improves over time. The second trait, though, the self-sacrifice, oh, not so great.
See, this one I'm willing to this one I'm willing to forgive. Because the self-sacrificing thing, I get it. I get it. Like, particularly when it is, like, her that the villains want. I get it. Like, because it's like if you don't go and sacrifice yourself, then everyone you love is gonna die. Whereas if you go by yourself, the people you love are in the clear, you know? So I kind of get it. It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place with that. So, you know, like I could get why people would be annoyed by it, but at the same time, I can also see the other side of that too.
At times, it almost feels like she had a martyr complex. Elena acts entitled all the time, believing
she does act entitled. Yes, that is definitely one of her flaws.
In some worst-case scenarios, more people are unalived than needed because of her recklessness.
Agreed.
That's okay, though. As long as she is confronted about that issue, realizes what she's doing is wrong, and grows and changes as a result, it's okay. In fact, that's part of the hero's journey, part of a normal character.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do the showrunners do to help her change? Well, at the end of the show, Elena is a lot less depressed and more confident. She ends up breaking up with Stefan and falling for Stefan's brother Damon, who makes her more reckless and morally gray. So that's also a change, I guess. However, in regards to the rest of her character, she's actually very similar. No one, and I mean no one, calls her out on her martyr complex, at least not for more than 5 minutes before forgiving her. No matter what situation she's in, she tries to sacrifice herself, it fails, and her friends have to rescue her. Even when Elena becomes a vampire and is much stronger than she was, this still happens. To make things worse,
you know, it happens.
Go on about how selfless Elena is, despite the fact that most of her actions are inherently selfish. Going out of one's way to save others seems like a selfless act on paper, but the way she does it, never listening to her friends' input and always thinking she's right, is selfish.
Yeah, I agree.
Twisted.
I agree.
I don't think the writers knew nor understood that. I mean, I genuinely think they meant for her to be kind and caring and to always come off that way.
Yeah, like the intention of being kind-hearted and caring is there.
It goes even deeper than that, though.
You know?
When Elena started making the transition from Stefan to Damon, it almost felt like she was showing her true colors or something along those lines. And the fact that she had absolutely no regard, no sympathy for the trauma and pain that he had caused her best friends, Bonnie and Caroline.
Yeah.
For context, at the beginning of the show,
Stefan that's pretty valid.
Yeah. Was the bad brother who unalived people without any qualms about it. Yes, throughout the series, Damon does go through some
unaliving,
which is what makes Elena fall for him.
Terrorizing of Bonnie, the SA of Caroline.
That would not excuse how he tried to Bonnie multiple times and did even worse things to Caroline in season 1. It makes sense that they wouldn't want Elena to date him.
Of course.
And what does Elena say in response? She tells them that Damon has changed and they're her friends, so they need to support her. This shows a complete lack of regard for the feelings of others. Like, a serious one. I was shocked when I first saw this in the show. And at first it seems like Caroline calls her out for this.
She does.
But instead, she and the show actually end up blaming it on this really dumb plot called the Sire Bond. That's another contrived thing we do not have time to get into in this video. But just know that because of this, Elena's choices are portrayed as not her fault. It's some magical curse thing, basically. So Elena never confronts these issues. By the end of the series, Elena has hardly changed. Her entitled attitude is never addressed, and she gets everything she wants in the end. To make things worse, her friends all suffered for her to get there, and she doesn't even realize it.
Yeah, really her friends definitely deserved. Her friends definitely deserved happy endings. Like, oh my god! Like, honestly, season 8 overall, I'll be honest. Not a big fan. Not a big fan of season 8. I think it had the potential to be really cool, especially when you bring in like the sirens and then Cade, like that whole thing. I think it had, like, on paper, the concept of it is really cool, but its execution fell flat, if you know what I mean. And You know, just the fact that literally every character got a sad or like incredibly bittersweet ending compared to Elena, who got practically everything that she wanted, minus like certain family members not being around, is actually really messed up. Like, that is really messed up. You got Bonnie and Enzo. They didn't get their happy ending. Stefan and Caroline. Stefan ends up dead. You know, Enzo ends up dead because of Stefan, who, you know, that's really more so on Cade, but, you know, Enzo ends up dead. Stefan ends up dead. Let's see. Rick kind of ends up alone. Like, at least he and Caroline have their daughters. Matt somehow survived all 8 seasons and like becomes a cop or the sheriff. Like, I guess that's a good enough ending for him. Yay. But like, it's actually crazy, like all the torturous amounts of pain that each of these characters had to go through in the end. Meanwhile, Elena gets to just come back not having experienced like particularly in season 7 and 8, not experiencing any type of pain, and just gets to like be with Damon and have her happy ending, whereas everybody else, they're either dead, have an incredibly bittersweet ending, or their ending is just not very good at all. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that. I actually am, I wouldn't say I like her character, but I am okay-ish with her because she does have certain strengths. Let's talk about those right now. I enjoyed her straightforward nature, similar to Bella's actually, and how she fought back against the vampires that were much stronger than her, even when the odds seemed hopeless. I also loved her relationship with her friends. Unlike Bella, who ignored her friends basically entirely, Elena is close to them, sharing their deepest secrets.
Her best friends are like sisters, pretty much, yeah.
One of my favorite parts of the show was the girls getting together to have sleepovers and talk about the insane supernatural boys in their lives. Elena also had a good relationship with her family, those who didn't die at least. She and her Aunt Jenna worked together to parent her little brother Jeremy, who, let's just say, took their parents' tragedy much harder than Elena did. And despite her martyr complex being inherently selfish, I did enjoy how Elena fiercely tried to protect those she loves.
Yeah, it came from a good place.
She had that really should have been expanded and improved upon as the series.
Her self-sacrificing trait, it came from a good place.
She could have become a genuinely, incredible and probably iconic character.
Good intentions are a slippery slope.
Protagonist. So we're through with the deep dive. We now know everything we need in order to make a decision about these two ladies. As an author, I like to logically break down what makes up good characters and what makes up good storytelling. So I identify a protagonist by these 5 traits. 1. Personality.
Elena wins.
Do they have a distinct personality, one unique to their character and no one else? 2. Backstory. Do they have a deep,
Elena wins again.
Just detailed backstory. Does the backstory affect who they are now? 3. Hobbies. Are there things they like to do outside of the plot? Do those things tell us more about who they are as a character?
I'm not too sure about that one, actually.
Goal. Do they have a goal? One they seek out throughout the narrative, one that is internal and at least somewhat not related to the love interest. 5. Change.
Yeah, that one's kind of a tie.
But I look at who the protagonist was at the beginning and end and see 2 different people. The hallmark of great writing is change. I cannot emphasize that enough. So now, knowing our criteria, let's rank Bella first.
Let's do this.
Does she have a distinct personality? No.
No.
Not at all, actually.
In fact, she spends the majority of her series as like a blank canvas.
Yes.
Like, there's nothing
about herself,
like unique about her at all.
Etc. But that can be said about most teenage girls. I mean, honestly, I think she's meant to be a self-insert character, but I'm really not a fan of those like that. In fact, it takes my engagement away if a character doesn't have their own unique traits, so I'm going to be hard on her for this regardless. We will give her some points for being confrontational to Edward, though. That's cool. And in the book, she's kind of charming and funny, so we can give her some credit for that.
Okay.
A 3 out of 10 sounds good. For backstory, Bella's story is really general. We don't get an expansion on her dad or her mom, even though the trauma from her mother ignoring her could have made for interesting character development. I'll give that a 4 out of 10. At least she does have a backstory. It could be worse. Now for hobbies. Well, in the book she likes to listen to Linkin Park and cook, but we don't see much of that. In the movies, there's nothing. Not a single thing. Not a sport she likes or TV she watches, so I'm giving this one a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, like we saw her read books, but those books were only meant to get her closer to the Cullens, so...
To get with Edward?
Yeah.
You could argue that before she met Edward, it was to survive high school, but that is quite a stretch. And also, again, very self-inserty, which I'm not going to be giving credit for that, even if that was the author's intention. So yeah, goal, motivations, very weak.
Very weak.
Finally, we get to the most important one. Does she change? Hardly. As we discussed, she becomes more confident, but since she didn't have a distinct personality to begin with besides isolating everyone who loves her, I can't say she changed very much.
No.
In fact, if you argue about the isolation thing, you could even say she changed for the worse. At the end of the series.
Oh my god, yeah.
2 out of 10.
Yeah, Charlie definitely deserved better too.
Personality. She's got one, I'd say. She's outgoing.
She definitely does.
And free-spirited. No one can tell her what to do. It isn't strong, it isn't memorable, but it is something. I'd say average, about 5 out of 10. Backstory. Surprisingly, despite the show's long runtime, there isn't much to Elena's backstory. There doesn't need to be, though. What matters is how much it affects her, and it does greatly. Although it is a bit generic, so 7 out of 10.
You know what, I guess that's kind of valid if you focus on like just her story in particular, because I was about to say, if you go into the whole like doppelganger stuff, that could kind of expand her story a little bit, which is obviously very important for the show in the earlier seasons. But yeah, I guess you could say that, like, if you're focusing on her backstory in particular with the car crash and how it affected, yeah, okay, fair.
Hobbies.
Fair.
Elena does actually have hobbies. She was a cheerleader at the beginning of the series, she likes to write, and she even goes into medicine later on. However, these hobbies are hardly brought up and don't make too many big statements about her character, except that she's kind and outgoing, which we kind of get already from other scenes. 5 out of 10.
She's already doing so much better than Bella, by the way.
Well, this is the first one I'm stumped on, actually. I guess in the beginning it's to survive, to recover from her parents' loss, which is something. However, as the series goes on, it changes to trying to redeem Damon and prove he's a good person. Just like with Bella, Elena's goal is centered around her love interest.
That I actually disagree with. Because, like, granted, with Elena's goals, it is very season-based, whereas, like, Bella, her goal is, like, literally all things Edward, regardless of what movie it is, the only exception being once Renesmee comes into the picture. But, like, with Bella, it's all Edward-based, whereas Elena, her goals vary by the season. So, like, season 1, yes, it is to overcome her grief in losing her parents, while at the same time it eventually becomes like essentially to preserve some type of normalcy in regards to like, you know, having what could be considered a normal life while also dipping into the dangerous world of dating a vampire, Stefan. And like in that, like that's mainly like season one, season two. It, I mean, I guess like at the finale, she also has the goal of saving Stefan's life, or Stefan and Damon's life. Sorry. So yeah, season two, it becomes essentially to save her friends, like to save her loved ones by sacrificing herself. She sacrifices herself, saves everybody that she loves. That's a pretty valid goal, I would say. Season three, let me see, what's season three? That's the one with the Michelsons being in town. We get enhanced original Alaric, right? So for her goal, it's to, for that season, it's to get rid of the originals, specifically Klaus. Killing Klaus is the like the primary goal of that season until it becomes once again saving the people that she cares about because of enhanced original Alaric. Season four, it's all about the cure. All of what that season is about is her learning to gain control of her vampirism, and like once we find out about the cure, going to get that, and you know, her like trying to become human again. Like that's the main goal for literally everybody trying to get this cure. Humanity. Season five. Now this one is where it gets to be what you're describing now, which is like very love interest based, where it's she tries to bring the goodness out of Damon, particularly in that season. And it kind of works in certain, like it does work a little bit, but you know, overall Damon is Damon. I mean, he straight up said in season four that he's not going to change. So, you know, but yeah, that one, it becomes very love interest based. Season six. I guess that one is mainly just her trying to build a future in regards to like she doesn't really like toward the beginning it's mainly just about her like truly embracing her like immortal future, like essentially getting into the whole thing of that Stefan was doing, going from place to place, establishing a new identity, doing new things. Like she's like coming to grips with that toward the beginning. But then also you have like in the second half of that season, again it kind of becomes very love interest based, being with Damon, getting Damon to be better, like getting Damon to admit to himself that he does still want to be a vampire rather than take the cure and become human with her. Like for those 6 seasons, like it very, I'm sorry, this is a very long-winded explanation, but like it's not really fair to say that all of her goals are love interest based, because that's not actually true. Her goals vary by the season, and I literally just broke it down. So you know, it's not really fair to say that all of her goals are love interest based. They're not. They are largely folks like centered around either saving her friends or preserving her humanity.
Person, just like with Bella, Elena's goal is centered around her love interest. I'd say 3 out of 10.
So like, yeah, this category for Elena, that's not really fair.
Change. Not really. At least not nearly enough to justify, again, an 8-season run. Just like we said before, she's more confident and morally gray by the end, but that's about it. Honestly, it feels like having Damon as a love interest really regressed her character, as she spent most of the show's run trying to redeem him over and over again, forgiving him no matter what he did. But that's a discussion for another video. This ranking is a 4 out of 10. And if you can do basic math, it is very clear who the winner is. Our grand total for Bella is 12 out of 50, or a 24%, and Elena's is a 26 out of 50, or a 52%. Don't get me wrong, these are both failing grades. I would not write a protagonist like this, and neither should you. But in my opinion, Elena is better than Bella in many ways.
She definitely is.
She has more depth by far, and I believe that would be the case even if both franchises had the same runtime. If you made it to the end of this video, you are now my favorite person. Thank you so much for giving me a chance, and I'm glad that you liked this crazy little slightly unhinged breakdown. I make these videos not to hate on these franchises. It's actually the opposite. I think you can tell from the enthusiasm in my voice that I actually love Twilight and the Vampire Diaries despite their flaws.
Same.
I just know that they can be so much better than they are, you know?
Agreed.
The romance genre in general suffers from a massive lack in character development, especially for women, but trust me, I've seen it for men too. I wish that could change, so that is why I made this video. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, all that stuff, and comment down below what you thought. Even if you disagree, I actually like a bit of discourse. Writing is subjective.
Yeah, honestly, I agreed with the majority of what you said.
What me to break down next. I had a lot of fun making this, and I would love to dive into other characters of these franchises if you guys would watch that. With that, I hope I've inspired you, and I'll see you in the next video. If you want to...
Yeah, I agreed with a lot of what she said, actually. Because a lot of it is true and just genuinely makes sense. The only part of this video that I didn't really agree with was the goal part for Elena, because it's not really fair to just summarize all of her goals like into one major point, which is like being love interest based and getting Damon to like be like a better person, because it's not really true. Her goals vary by season and expand so much further beyond just like being with Damon and getting everybody else to love Damon and getting Damon to be a better person. Her goals expand so much beyond that. It just varies by season. So like it can feel like her main goal is like all love interest based, given how like she was written, like how it was written, but like when you really deep dive it, it's like her goals are beyond love interest scenarios, you know. But anyway, that's just how I think of it. Anyway, if you enjoyed my reaction to this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.